excited to have a roundtable with the EPA Alumni Association, as well as the EPA network. As you know, I'm Dr. Alex Meredith, and I am the Director of Student Engagement within the College of Agriculture, Science, and Technology. So before I hand it over, one general announcement. I know, well, if you actually do ask a question of our distinguished guests, please make sure that you turn on your camera. Also, please stay muted until you actually ask a question. Also, I can and will monitor the chat. If you do have a question, that's fine as well. And then also, if you are here for attendance purposes and you are looking for the survey will appear at 11:50 in the chat. That survey, of course, gives us feedback on this program, as well as an opportunity for you to have a drawing, well, to be entered into a drawing for a $10 Amazon gift card. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Candace Boyd, who is an administrator, and she's actually the director for the Chesapeake Bay program.
All right, thank you so much, Alex, and good morning to everyone. So first, I want to make sure that everyone can hear me okay. So especially to our students at Delaware State University, can you use that reaction button and just let me know, thumbs up that you can hear me before I go ahead and start with this presentation? All right, I'm seeing some thumbs up. All right, awesome. Well, hopefully you should see a PowerPoint presentation on your virtual slide right now, and I'm going to walk you through that presentation as well. So as Alex mentioned, my name is Candace Boyd, and I'm proud to serve as the director of the Chesapeake Bay Program Office. You can see this background behind me is a picture of the Chesapeake Bay from the air. And then I also have our logo on my shirt as well. And our three pillars are science, restoration, and partnership. But today we're talking about careers in the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. So I'm proud to speak to you on behalf of Region 3, where I serve as the first African-American female senior executive service member for all of Region 3. So if you take nothing else from this presentation, is that there are opportunities for you in the EPA and specifically in the EPA Region 3. So again, thank you for joining the roundtable discussion today. This is hosted by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, Region 3, and this is in partnership with the EPA Alumni Association, as well as the Environmental Protection Network, which are two of our agency's alumni associations. And I also want to say that I have a special spot in my heart for HBCUs. Both of my parents attended Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So they are products of the HBCU system. And my sister also attended Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So many times I tell people that I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for an HBCU. All right, let's move to the next slide, please. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? So first, I'd like to introduce you to the Environmental Protection Agency. I also want to share with you a video from our EPA administrator, Michael Regan, who is not only an HBCU graduate, but the first African-American male to hold that position, which is the highest position in the EPA. And then we're going to have two distinguished EPA alumni that will discuss their careers in the EPA. And I'll introduce both of them as well. Then we'll also have an HR specialist talk to you and just walk you through the process of becoming a member of the EPA team. So that includes hiring authorities, who qualifies for those authorities, and just tips to navigate and apply for positions as well. And then last but not least, we'll leave some time for you to just ask questions and just learn a little bit more about EPA as time permits. All right, so at this time, I want to start by just providing a welcome video to you. And again, this is our EPA Administrator, Michael Regan. So let's start with the video, please.
HBCU graduate, I know firsthand the excellence, pride, and dignity that come from attending an HBCU, and I'll never miss an opportunity to say Aggie Pride. Here at EPA, we're taking a holistic approach to how we engage with and support HBCUs. We're increasing our efforts to recruit a more diverse workforce. We're expanding our support of HBCUs through research, grants, and contracts, and we're creating ways to more effectively engage with communities. HBCUs have produced some of the greatest minds in American history, and we want you on our team at US EPA. You don't need a scientist to work at EPA. Like any large organization, we have writers, accountants, HR specialists, and IT professionals who help us achieve our mission to protect people's health and the environment. I encourage you to visit epa.gov/careers and to follow at EPA Jobs on Twitter for more information regarding open positions. There are so many opportunities available to you, and as soon-to-be HBCU graduates, you'll have all the tools you need to succeed.
All right, thank you so much. So we're going to go to the next slide, which highlights the mission of EPA. So as you can see here, the EPA mission is to protect human health and the environment. And so to accomplish this mission, all of our regions coordinate with one another, as well as with EPA headquarters in Washington, D.C., under the direction of Michael Regan, who is our administrator. Can we go to our next slide, please? All right, so how is EPA organized? EPA is made up of EPA headquarters in Washington, D.C. We also have 10 regional offices. So my office, the Chesapeake Bay Program Office, resides in Region 3, which is the Mid-Atlantic region. And then we also have 11 laboratories throughout the country. So each regional office is responsible for the states in that region. So my office, as I mentioned, is in Region 3, and my office, even though it's physically located in Region 3, we have an area that spans 64,000 square miles. So that includes 6 states as well as the District of Columbia, and those 6 states actually reside in the Mid-Atlantic region. Well, all of them except for one. The one that's in New York is actually Region 2, but in the Mid-Atlantic region, those states include Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, as well as the District of Columbia. So in Region 3, we have a total of 17 HBCUs in our region, and we have working relationships with 9 of those HBCUs, including Delaware State University. So what does a working relationship mean? So we are hoping to expand to more colleges and universities in the future, but the MOU specifically with Delaware State University means that EPA has an opportunity to have boots on the ground and literally come to your campus and engage with future leaders like you. So we've participated in annual career fairs, and we've also participated in Earth Day celebrations right on your campus. And so we're also currently working with Delaware State University's biology department to assist Delaware State University in obtaining a national environmental laboratory accreditation. So this initiative has provided seniors with capstone projects, and it will also afford Delaware State University with the ability to provide consistent and high quality environmental testing services for federal agencies. All right, let's go to the next slide. So many people ask me, oh, Candace, you're the director of the Chesapeake Bay Program Office. You probably have a lot of scientists that work for you. And the answer is yes, we do have scientists, but we need people from all different backgrounds. In my office, we have accountants, we have communication specialists, IT specialists, engineers. My background is meteorology, but the point is we need everyone as a collective to come together and to do the great work of the Environmental Protection Agency. So as you look at this slide, these are just a few of the wonderful careers that EPA can offer you. And again, from business management majors, grant specialists, human resource specialists, and as I mentioned before, accountants, IT specialists, we need everyone so that we can manage the resources from EPA and so that we can efficiently serve the public in this increasingly virtual world. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't include communication specialists. One of our specialists, Brittany, is on the line today, and she is the one who put together this entire presentation for me to talk to you. So that's another area that we really, really need is people who can communicate well in different spaces and different places. But last but not least, you can also see from the slide, we need legal experts. And our legal experts help us drive, help us enforce, and help us defend the work that we do each and every day. Next slide, please. So I hope this was a great introduction for you, just to learn more about the Environmental Protection Agency. And if you take nothing else from my presentation, is that we need you. You are the future, you are the leaders of tomorrow, and EPA has a space and a place for you. So now I'd like to introduce to you two of today's alumni panelists. Both are former Region 3 employees, and they will give you more insight on careers in the Environmental Protection Agency. So first, John Armstead was the director of the Land and Chemicals Division, and he's also an alum of Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. And then we also have Walter Wilkie, and he was the deputy director of the Air Division and also an alum of Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. So again, thank you so much for your time. I'm so proud and honored to provide this introduction, and I will turn it over to John and to Walter. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Boyd, for that introduction, and thank you, Walter, for joining me on this panel. And thanks to all of you at Delaware State University. It is a pleasure to join you this morning to talk about my career at EPA. And quite frankly, I must say that EPA was one of those places that allowed me to really pursue my passion for environmental protection. And being a graduate from Lincoln University, they prepared me quite well for my career, which spanned 42 years at the EPA, ending with me being the senior executive director for the Land and Chemicals Management Division. With a master's degree from Temple University in public administration, it enabled me to really work closely with all of the different careers that, or I should say jobs that you heard Dr. Boyd mention at EPA in the work of protecting human health and the environment. But I want to start where I began my career, and that was as a program manager, staff person, managing grants. So coming from Lincoln with a biology degree and a minor in chemistry, I quickly had to become very familiar with sort of grants and how grants work, as well as working with states and their counterparts to managing these grants. All these grants were designed to implement the hazardous waste management program, which I had the responsibility for over time. In addition to that, my work as a program manager, as I progressed in my career at EPA, I had an opportunity to be an enforcement officer and to work in the job that involved enforcing the environmental regulations that this nation has embodied. And then prior to my management, joining the management into the senior leadership at EPA Region 3, I had many other opportunities to work internationally, to work in the water environment. I'm a scientific diver for the EPA, did a lot of work diving, doing scientific investigations in that space, which gave me the opportunity to really see the work that EPA does up close and personal. But I want to pause there and turn it over to my colleague, Walter Wilkie, who has been a great colleague, but more importantly, a great friend and someone who really has a passion like me, and also a fellow Lincoln alum. Take it away, Walt.
Yeah, I mean, the passion is based on meeting a guy like John Armstead early in your EPA career and having him pound on you regularly about direction and what your plans are. Like a lot of you, again, my name is Walt Wilkie. I just want to make one quick correction. Candace mentioned I was the deputy director for the Air Division. I spent most of my career at EPA in the Air Division, but before I departed in 2017, I was the deputy director of our regional lab services and data analytical services for the region. Um, Like many of you on this phone call, I was your age, not knowing what I wanted to do. You come out of college, all you can think about is, I got to get money. I want to get my own spot, my own car. I worked before EPA. Even though I graduated from Lincoln like John, my pathway to EPA was slightly different. I started my career with the Occupational Safety and Health Administration up in New Jersey. And then from there, I spent like 2 years working for a private environmental consulting agency, basically doing grunt work. But both of those opportunities got me in the door at EPA, but I was introduced to a whole brand new world as I started my career way back in 1989 as a GS5. Never had a job when I got out of college. As soon as I got tired of being someplace, I was gone. I was out. EPA was different. And like I said, meeting guys like John, what made our relationship strong was the fact that we came from the same university. But at the same time, as a GS5, introducing myself to the agency, I was working in the clean air program, doing air enforcement. What that exposed me to was things that I never got exposed in my other job opportunities. I got to work and provide technical support through doing inspections, working closely with the attorneys in our Office of Regional Counsel. But that also provided me the opportunity to sit across the table with corporate executives and other technical folks who were there to negotiate when I found through my inspections that they were in violation. And that's a big deal as you sit there as a 20-something-year-old having a vice president of production beg you to give them some grace to do their compliance duties as far as the Clean Air Act was concerned. But my career at EPA didn't get limited to the Clean Air Act. Even as an entry-level person, I got involved with certain projects, national policy implementation. Ms. Beth Craig on this call, she and I go way back because when she was at our Research Triangle Park in North Carolina, we had to partner on some issues that might affected my region, but were national objectives. It was blowing my mind to sit there and get involved with issues where I knew what my role was in that issue, that my inspection led to this violation in which we took a company to court. But also those experiences in working with others in other divisions of the region also provided opportunity to move into other positions. I left the Clean Air program and worked as a project manager in one of our other divisions in our hazardous waste group. No, I didn't have the background, but the background that I had established in my early years in the Clean Air program helped me transition to that position. It also opens up the opportunity to work with others, as you saw, accountants, IT specialists. Throughout your time at EPA, you will encounter and engage and partner with all those folks. And your partnerships aren't just limited to EPA people. Early on doing inspections, I partnered with our state partners, as Candace described. Each of those states, including Allegheny County and Pittsburgh, and the Air Management Services in Philadelphia, are our state partners. And so when we're doing inspections at refineries or chemical plants, we partner with our state partners. That's another way that I began to grow. And like I said, you meet people like John Armstead who kind of nudge you towards in your career. He nudged me pretty hard. I used to get tired of it, but that's how we became friends because he never stopped. But at the same time, along with those experiences, the agency provides you with training, and not just technical training, not just training to make you better in the job that you're doing. There's technical writing, there's oral presentation. Some folks are petrified to stand in front of a room of even just two people or even to be on a Zoom conference. I mean, I had to work on my shyness over the 30 years that I spent at EPA, so it looked like I broke out of it finally. But you do get that opportunity to both develop both technically and professionally and personally. And you also get to engage with all levels, not just, I'm a technical person, so I don't engage with management. That's not the case, at least within Region 3, and it's most like that throughout the agency. Again, you meet people like Beth Craig, you meet others in other regional offices, you join national teams, you represent your region in that way, and then you grow. All right. That was part of my course. The other most important course that's a part of the EPA community is special emphasis programs. These programs help facilitate transition, especially if you should be lucky enough to get a job with EPA in the entry level positions. It's not about an old guy telling you, follow what I do and you'll be fine. It's not that. It's your own course of folks. And it's not something that's considered discriminatory, but these special emphasis groups focus in on things that are important to individuals, important to certain groups. They partner with the management in the region to help solve regional problems. So in the little bit of time that they gave me, because over the years I could talk throughout this whole complete endeavor. But the main thing I want to get across to you, if you're interested in joining the Environmental Protection Agency, especially just coming out of school, is probably the best, most professional atmosphere to join. Again, when I worked for an environmental consultant, I had several titles. My pay didn't never change. And there was a ceiling that was very clear to me. But if you join EPA, and yeah, you'll start at the bottom like I did, but before I left in 2017, I was again deputy director of a regional lab service. Nothing that was a part of my pathway, nothing that was in my plans. It just evolved as I spent my 30-year career. So I hope that someone on this call shares that same interest. You'll find it to be one of the best atmospheres. Like I said, as a young person, as soon as I got tired, I was out. So for 30 years, I never got tired. So I hope you take advantage of that opportunity if it's presented to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Walt.
So I think next, Liz Martinez is going to walk us through how, if you have the interest and passion that John and Walt have, how you can apply for a job at EPA. Thank you, Liz.
Thanks, Beth. It was so great hearing. I always love hearing about fellow EPA employee stories, and they're just so inspiring. And, I feel like a common theme that we see a lot is, people start off at those, internship level, student trainee, recent grads, and it carries them. And next thing you know, 20 years later, they're in a career that they love. And so I know that's really inspiring for myself, but I'll do a quick little intro about me, where I'm located, and then we're going to go over some hiring paths and ways that you can join EPA. And then I'm also going to do a live demo of USA Jobs. That way you can get you familiarized with the website. Maybe you've seen it once or twice. Maybe you know your way around it, or maybe you've never seen it at all. No worries. I'm going to take you through a job announcement and go over the key facts that we want you to look out for. But my name is Elizabeth Martinez. I go by Liz. I am an HR staffing specialist at our beautiful RTP campus in Durham, North Carolina. I've been with the EPA for a little bit over a year now. So in the grand scheme of things, maybe not as long as a lot of other people, but I've loved every minute of it. And I'm super excited to see where my career takes me here. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So I'm going to take you to my PowerPoint slide. Great. So the first thing we're going to go over is those hiring paths. Now, these are going to be specifically geared for students and recent graduates, but keep in mind there are definitely more than those hiring paths and hiring authorities that we do appoint people on, but these are the most popular. So the first one being a student trainee position. This is going to be like those internships, and yes, they are paid internships. So kind of, what they're mentioning.
Hey, Liz, can I pause you for a second? Your slides aren't showing.
Oh, no. Okay, let's see. Let's try this one more time. Thank you.
Okay, we got them now.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I'll make sure everybody can see this. Okay. There we go. Okay, so different hiring paths. The first one being that student trainee position. So paid internships. We do offer two types of internships. A real popular one is a summer internship. That is what we call a not to exceed, because there's a certain timeline that we bring you on board for. Typically, you'll see those run through, May through like August, September, that time where you're not in school. Those do offer a certain level of benefits, and they are paid. And we also offer indefinite internships. So those are kind of up in the air in terms of how long of an internship you would have. It can be a year, it can be 2 years, it could be 6 months. So those are really meant to kind of aid in addition to your education and while you're in school. And those are mainly going to be part-time positions, while the summer ones will be those full-time roles. One of the requirements there is you must be enrolled at least half-time or part-time with an academic institution. And keep in mind with these internships, there are a lot of people who, you've heard them start off as interns and then they got converted into permanent positions. So that is a possibility that's out there with the indefinite internships. If there is a need with the program, the project, the team that you're working on, it's not uncommon for an internship to actually turn into a permanent position and really set you up for your career with EPA. The next one is going to be the recent graduates pathway. So this is going to be one that I was actually brought on under. So a really great pathways that sets you up if maybe you're anticipating graduation or you're going to graduate or you already graduated, that kind of thing. This is a really popular one as well that we bring a lot of people on board. So this is open for students or alumni who are within 2 years of their latest graduation. So say, for example, you graduated May of 2021. You are still within that timeline of being eligible to apply under the recent graduates pathways. Now, these can also be converted to permanent positions. How these are typically set up is the first year that you are working with EPA is more of like a training. It's a lot of on-the-job learning and training, and it's more of like a kind of like a trial period just to make sure that it's a good fit for you and the program. And once you complete that 1-year trial period, you do get converted to permanent status and, a permanent position. Now, the cool thing about this type of pathways is sometimes there's a little bit of a contingency or there's like an extra added bonus in terms of who can be eligible. So some positions do allow students anticipating graduation within 3 to 9 months to apply. So what that means is whenever we look at a job announcement, and we'll go over the clarification from the agency, you definitely want to read the fine print because we want to make sure that you're eligible. So in some instances, the job announcements will allow students who are anticipating graduation. So maybe you're graduating, December of 2022 or May of 2020 or 2023, actually. If you see that piece that says, hey, we are open, this is open to students who are anticipating graduation, and it might have like a certain cutoff date, but then it also may have like within the next 6 months of the announcement closing. So if you know you're going to graduate within that time period, you actually would be eligible to apply to the recent graduates pathways as well. If for any reason you don't see that extra language in there, no worries, because post-graduation, you have a full 2 years to apply. I was actually 1 year post-graduation when I applied to the EPA under this pathways. So even if you don't see, that job or that position open up right as soon as you graduate, keep an eye out because you got 2 years of eligibility underneath this pathways. Now, the next one being our non-competitive appointments. So this is going to be those who are veterans, maybe individuals with disabilities. A non-competitive, what that means is you don't have to compete with the general public. So these are special hiring authorities that we have. That way we are ensuring we are bringing on more veterans on board, individuals with disabilities, even returned Peace Corps volunteers, AmeriCorps Vista. So those are some other pathways that you can be brought on into the agency if you do qualify under one of those as well. Okay, so the next screen, navigating USA jobs. So the key things that I want you to keep an eye out and that I'm going to go over is we're going to look at the different hiring paths, so how to filter for those. We're going to look at the section called clarification from the agency. This is going to be that fine print where you can really determine if you're eligible for the position. We're also going to look at educational requirements. So there may be some instances where, particularly if it's a STEM related position, there may be a special education requirement where you are required to have a degree within that academic discipline, but sometimes there isn't as well. And we're going to go over what we call a specialized experience statement. So this is kind of a unique little inside tip that not a lot of people know about. This is how you're going to really look at your resume and ensure that you are putting your experience out there in a way that translates to our HR staffers and those who are actually reviewing your applications. And then lastly, we're going to go over save searches and setting notifications. So really being the first person to know, hey, this job announcement for a program analyst or an HR specialist or an administrative position, it just went live. You're going to get notified immediately. That way you can go and apply and put in your application firsthand. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and exit the presentation and I'm going to take us to USA Jobs. So if you've never been on usajobs.gov before, this is a general government website where you can search for any agency, but let's be honest, we all know EPA is the best one to work at. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to search EPA, and it's going to bring up the Environmental Protection Agency. So now I know there's over 100 jobs right now for the EPA that are open. If we look to the right, we have filters. So these are all the different hiring paths that you can be brought on to the agency with. Of course, we have tons of jobs that are open to the public. We also have some that are maybe available for internal federal employees. We have those that are available to veterans, military spouses. And then here, we're going to look at our students and our recent graduates. So this is probably going to be the most popular filter that you might look for. But keep in mind, we do have those additional paths that I mentioned, those non-competitive appointments. So if individuals with disabilities, if that applies to you, or even you're a Peace Corps volunteer or AmeriCorps Vista, you can select that one as well. So I'm going to go ahead and select the students and the recent graduates. And then before I go into that, you can actually also filter by pay. I know that's something that's super important to all of us. And the really cool thing about working for a federal agency is all of that information is public knowledge. So you can actually just Google, OPM salary 2022. And there's actually a chart that will tell you based on your location what that compensation is. So you can really plan for the now and plan for the future as well. And then here, I'm going to go over the different grades. I know being from the agency, sometimes we can use a lot of jargon and there's a lot of acronyms and words that even when I first joined, I was like, what is that? It just doesn't make sense. So I want to break down the grades for you because that's also going to give you a better idea when you're applying to jobs, kind of what you're getting yourself into. So the most common internships in, student entry level positions are going to be anywhere between the GS3 and the 5. So 3, 4, and 5, those are going to be your internships, super entry level. Then we're going to jump to GS7 and 9. These two right here, these are going to be like your entry level. So recent graduate pathways will invite you in on a 7 and a 9, along with just even like regular positions. So that is your entry level. Then we're going to jump to like your 11 and 12. These are going to be more like your mid-career. So maybe you've been there for a year, or maybe you have a lot of work experience from a private sector job that would give you more of like a mid-career type of level. And then your 13, 14, and 15, these are going to be the highest. These are going to put you more of like a lead role or a manager or supervisor role as well. So a lot of times you'll see on an announcement, what is the job advertising for as far as the grades? Sometimes it can be more than one. And if you're eligible for more than one, apply to all of them for sure. And you'll also see what we call a full performance level, which means what is the promotion potential? And that's also a really good one to look at because you want to know, hey, where am I starting off at and where can I go to as well? So with that said, it looks like we have about 15 jobs open just today for our students and recent graduates. So I'm going to scroll to a student trainee position. That's a STEM one. And I will say these job announcements are super lengthy. I know there's a lot of information, but I promise it's for a reason. We definitely do our best to be really transparent about the application process, the hiring process, and making sure you have all the tools and resources necessary to be able to properly apply for a job and ensure that your application is accepted, it's reviewed, and that way you know everything there is to know about the job. What are the duties? What are the KSAs, that they're asking for? What program am I going to work in, and that kind of thing. So the first section I'm going to go to is, who is this job open to? Most important, am I eligible? So this particular job is open to students. This is going to be like that internship. So if we read the clarification from the agency, this is telling me that if I am an enrolled student or individual that has been accepted for any type of enrollment seeking like that diploma, certification, bachelor's degree, all of that good stuff at a full-time or half-time basis, I'm good to go. So I know I'm good there. So I'm going to keep scrolling down. This is going to go over your job duties. So what can you expect to do on a daily basis? a few requirements. So some conditions of employment. This particular one does say you have to be 16 or older. You do have to be a U.S. citizen. And then it also has positive education requirements as well. So we're going to take a look at that. These are just some more kind of tidbits about making sure that you have that at least half-time, course load. You're maintaining that as well. So here under the qualifications, this is where we're going to see a specialized experience statement. So this is going to be kind of like that buzzword of, you want to make sure that when you're creating your resume and you're building your resume, you're properly translating, your experience in a way that relates to what we're looking for as well. So for this particular one, this is for the GS4 level, so internship. It actually is saying all you need to have is 2 full years of post-high school education. So this is not looking for any additional specialized experience at the moment, but I will take you to a different one that shows you, just so you can kind of get an idea of how they will look from time to time. But for this one, you really just need that 2 full years of post-high school education or an associate's degree. And then if we keep scrolling down, this is just going to go over all the additional resources, benefits that we offer, and then also the required documents. So this is also letting you know about your transcripts. This is probably the biggest thing that a lot of people would have so that their application wouldn't be eligible or couldn't be reviewed, is sometimes they forget to upload their transcripts, or they're uploading an old version from like a year ago. So biggest tip I can say is they don't have to be official transcripts. They can be unofficial, but definitely making sure you have the most up-to-date course transcript list, any type of documentation that can give us the best idea of where you're at with your work experience and your education as well. We like to see all the courses that you're taking, GPA, when your anticipated graduation date is, if you have like an associate's degree or any other type of degree, making sure that on your transcript, it is showing the conferral date. It is showing when the degree was awarded, because we look at that as basically evidence for you, completing your coursework and your degrees. And so without that, we can't really do much in terms of qualifying you for the job. So super important that you have all the most up-to-date transcripts and a resume as well. So with that, I'm going to take us to one other job, because I do want to point out that specialized experience statement for you, so you have a good idea of what you're looking at. Okay, so I'm going to go to a similar STEM position. And I'm going to scroll down to our qualifications. So I know earlier we saw a statement that said to qualify for the GS4. So this one in particular is saying this, we are advertising it at a GS7. So to qualify for the GS7 level, they are looking for at least 1 year of full-time experience equivalent to the 5, which is just the lower one. And this is how we define it. We define it as assisting in the collection and or analysis of field and lab environmental samples, or applying scientific engineering principles and policies to environmental protection issues and problems. So what this means is, in addition to any type of education requirement or, eligibility in terms of, you're within that 2 years of just graduating, we're also looking for 1 year of full-time experience. And so if on your resume, you have this type of experience of doing field work, doing lab work, collecting data samples, applying those scientific principles to, a current environmental protection issue that we're dealing with, you definitely want to make sure that on your resume, it is there for us to see that. And we also can see that you've done it for 1 full year at that 40 hours per work week type of timeline as well. Now, the cool thing about these specialized experience statements that I do want to point out is you see a lot of or options. So like I said, I know it's a lot, but if you read them super carefully and slowly, you can see that there are more ways to be eligible. So I know in the case of coming out of college, maybe you don't have a lot of work experience. I know I myself graduating, I didn't have like any HR experience. I just had my degrees, and that is a lot to stand on. So if you look at the statements, there are ways that you can use your education in lieu of work experience. So it's okay if you don't have that full 1 year of work experience, you can still apply and be qualified based on your education. So this one says, or if you have 1 full year of graduate level education, so if you're working on a graduate program and you've completed 1 full year, or you've achieved superior academic achievement as well. So what that means is superior academic achievement. So that's GPA. That's a 3.0 or higher GPA. So there's a lot of little like fine print and or statements in there. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Just like for the 9 level, it says, oh, well, we're looking for 1 year of this, this, and this, X, Y, and Z. Okay, that's great. If I have it, I'm putting it on my resume. But if for any reason I don't, and maybe I only did a summer internship, or maybe I only worked on a research project for 6 months or that kind of thing, but you have a master's degree. This one says, or if you have a master's degree, you can qualify for the GS9 level and you can use your education in lieu of that work experience. So I think that's a really great thing to point out, especially for a lot of people who are in college right now, anticipating graduation, or even thinking about graduate programs. We do accept your applications and your eligibility just based on a lot of different education factors, which is really great. And then the only thing else I'm going to go over is education. So sometimes you might see that if it's a particular job, you will have education requirements in a required academic discipline. So it's not uncommon for these STEM jobs to be like, hey, we can hire you as an environmental engineer. And this is what we're looking for. We're looking for that, successful completion of an engineering degree. Or maybe we're looking for some training, some certification, some licensing. So there's, like I said, there's so many different ways that you can be eligible and qualify for these jobs. It's just about understanding the announcement and where you kind of fit in. Now, another way we're hiring for this job, so there might be times where you see 3 different job titles. What that essentially means is the job duties are so similar to the engineer, the scientist kind of role that we can hire them as one of the 3. So say you have a biology degree, then we can hire you as a life scientist. Say maybe you have a chemistry degree or a mathematics degree, we can hire you as a physical scientist. So super important to read under the qualifications section. You're looking for that specialized experience statement, and you're looking for those education requirements to see if you have a degree that matches that academic discipline as well. So with that, I know I gave you a lot of information about vacancy announcements or job announcements. I really encourage you to go to usajobs.gov, set up your profile. You can actually store your resume, your transcripts, course listing, proof of enrollment, that kind of thing. Get all that documentation ready now, because what I will say with these job announcements, they only go live for about 5 business days. It's a really short timeline that I think a lot of people don't realize. And that's basically the norm for all of our positions. So with that said, it's really important that you set up those notifications. So once you create a profile and you're in the portal, you can actually save keywords like administrative or program manager or scientist or engineer or HR, to where anytime a job announcement is posted with that keyword, you actually get an email. And you want to make sure that you turn your application in. Sometimes announcements even have application limits because they are so popular and we get so many people. So making sure you are the first to know when that announcement goes live, and that you hit that cutoff mark. And if there's any technical difficulties, you have plenty of time to apply. I really encourage you to do that. And of course, you can always save jobs. So maybe you can't do it right then and there, save the job, come back for it for later, but just keep in mind that these guys do open and close on a very short timeline. So with that, I'm going to take us back to our PowerPoint, and I'm going to talk just a little bit about, oh no, I guess we're ready for Q&A. I wanted to give us a few moments for sure. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer from a staffing perspective, but also we have all of our amazing spotlight speakers and other individuals here who can answer any questions. And I will leave this slide up. This is also just a resources slide. My colleague here, Ashley Gaines, if you have any questions, she's actually in our RTP campus as well, and she kind of spearheads those efforts. But we have a lot of different resources. Follow us on Twitter. We're super active on Twitter, LinkedIn, and all that good stuff. But thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks so much, Liz. I think that Alex and Brittany are going to help out with the questions. So Alex, did you want to start?
Sure. One of the questions that I know are probably on students' minds centers around, of course, around career. So for some individuals that have either retired and or if you're still currently with the EPA, can you talk a little bit about any highlights, one or two projects that you found really exciting that you might like to share?
Alex, I like to go first.
Okay.
Um, Again, this is Walt Wilkie. Go ahead, Beth. You were about to say something?
I was going to ask Liz if she could take down her.
We're all still here.
Thanks. Okay, Walt, go.
Okay. Uh, wow. One of the things, Alex, that I got excited to hear during Dr. Boyd's presentation was the fact that there are students at Dell State University that actually may have the opportunity to work as and do accredited lab analysis within our region. The reason why I was excited about that was I had the opportunity before I retired to kind of get that started with Dr. Sharice Winstead. And it just didn't get off the ground because Walt left in 2017. So I was so excited to hear about how that transition is still continuing on. One of the most important things that can be provided is the opportunity to have practical work experience before you get out into the working world. In some opportunities, you do get that chance to use your academics to help you transition. But again, having some practical experience will lend itself even greater. And the fact that the university has progressed, it started off with the chem department. I don't know if there's a difference between the two, but I was so excited to hear that. So I just wanted to get that out my system.
Yeah,
Okay.
let me follow up on that one as well, Walter. I think students at Delaware will have a great opportunity, if they come into the EPA Region 3 office to work in the environment right here in your backyard. The region provides a lot of opportunities to get out in the field where you can actually see the benefit of the work that you are doing in cleaning up the environment. And one such experience that I've had is being able to work in the Delaware Bay and taking water samples and evaluating aquatic grasses and sea life to really tell a story about what pollutants what kinds of pollutants are causing problems in the area, and developing plans to mitigate, to correct those problems. So those are the types of things that the agency provided me and Walter opportunities to really get hands-on, experience. So you're not just a desk jockey.
I was never a desk jockey. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
Yeah. And some of these
Love to
questions.
chime in as well.
Okay.
So with the Chesapeake Bay, as I mentioned, it's 6 states and it's also the District of Columbia. So I want to wholeheartedly agree with what John just said. It's not a desk job. You are out in the field, you're talking to people, you're interacting with people depending on your actual position, and you're learning about how the environment affects the bay. And, it's not just water, but we're learning it's water, it's land, it's air, and it's the intersectionality of those three. So you have a lot of opportunities, at least in my office, to do more than just what is on paper. We have a lot of people who are cross-trained, which means we have a lot of backups. And that means that even though your area might be policy, you might be working in communications the next day. Your background might be IT, but you might be helping the modelers in some aspect as well. So understanding breadth and depth, I think, is really important. And then also that's a great part of the career experience as well, because you want to have a skill set that can be used not only for today in your current job, but for your next position, whatever that may be. Thank you.
Students, I know that some of you guys have a 12 o'clock class, so I made sure that I dropped in the chat the survey link. So if you not only are here to enjoy EPA, but you might also be here to have your attendance captured, please make sure that you fill out the survey. Make sure that you have your full name, your instructor, as well as your phone number and or email, just in case I need to follow up with you. So a lot of these questions also centered from the conversations that I got to have with Mr. Bill Early, who his career was in law. And so one of the questions that he really enjoyed was, I'm wondering what career field did did you initially think that you would build a career in? And I like that question because I'm always working with students and trying to make them understand that your actual degree is so interdisciplinary. So anybody want to take that question?
I take this one first.
Mhm.
Hi, everybody. My name is Brittany Clark. I am a proud Hornet, go Delaware State. I graduated in 2009, and I currently work for the Environmental Protection Agency as an EEO, or Equal Employment Opportunity Specialist. Now, when I was at Del State, I majored in veterinary science because I just knew I was going to be a veterinarian. And I went all the way to my junior year taking veterinary classes and agriculture classes. And I got to a point where I didn't realize I had to pivot, and that wasn't what I wanted to do. I went to graduate school at Penn State, still studying animal science. And I unfortunately came out right in the middle of the last recession. So nobody was hiring, nobody was doing anything. So I did an internship at EPA. I volunteered. Like, I wasn't getting paid. I was there 9 to 5 every day. And I was just getting more skills while I was at work and learning different things. And since then, like, I've pivoted to 3 or 4 different positions since I've been in EPA. Once I got hired officially in 2015, I did inspections at agricultural operations all throughout the Mid-Atlantic region. And then I switched over to be a grant specialist. I also worked for our deputy regional administrator in the front office doing analyst work and helping to oversee and run the region, and got to get a bird's eye view of what we do from all different aspects of all the different divisions, not just in water. And now I'm an EEO specialist. So I feel like my story shows you that my degree is in animal science. My master's degree is in agricultural and extension education, but I'm not doing any of that now. Like, now I'm doing something completely different. I do work at a desk more often, but I'm also in a position where I have a lot of flexibility. So I'm also now the minority serving institutions coordinator. So I get to work with our HBCUs and try to pay it forward and bring more students from HBCUs into the region and to work for EPA and help them be excited and learn about the different things that they can do. So like Alex said, your degree does not necessarily determine what you have to do for the rest of your life. Your degree is really just your ticket to get you in. Your degree, along with any experience that you can do. And then once you get in, especially within EPA, the flexibility to move around is based on what you want to do. You have to be proactive in your own career. If you want to do something different, you need to start taking trainings. You can start taking knowledge transfer sessions to learn what that position is about and gain the skills that you need in the background until the position is announced. And then bam, like, I qualify for this position because I've been building on myself. So I encourage you to, even if you're starting in a degree and you're not even sure what you want to do with it, I'm sure you can find something in EPA to do with it. I'm sure we can help you do that too. That's it.
Anybody else want to add?
This is Candace. I can also provide some comments. I think Brittany hit the nail on the head. Your degree gets you in the door, but your aptitude and your attitude take you wherever you want to go. And so for that reason, it's skill sets that you really want to build and sharpen and learn along the way. But the one skill set you're going to need more than anything else is your ability to work with others. No job is an island. You're going to have to work with people in spaces and places. And then let's just be honest, sometimes you don't always agree. So learning how to work through those disagreements, those conflicts, those issues to finally get towards some type of consensus is really important, no matter what type of position that you have. So I thought Brittany really eloquently brought that home, and I just wanted to, highlight that as well. But I also wanted to just say really quickly that I'm here as a result of an internship. So a long time ago, because Brittany's a lot younger than I am, but I literally started with NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, as a meteorologist that was forecasting. And so you asked earlier, what got you into this field? I wanted to be an on-air meteorologist, and I went to school at Iowa State University, and I became an on-air meteorologist for the local television affiliate. But then I was later told that I didn't fit the demographic, and that's a nice way of saying you're fired. And so I tell that story to everyone because, your career path is not going to be straight. It's going to have twists and turns, ups and downs, and sometimes even stops. And, understanding that there's a skill set in each and every position that you can bring to the table, as well as something that you can learn and take with you to the next position, is really important. And as you've heard for so many people, your career is not just one job. It will probably be a series of jobs in some cases, and you want to find something that you're passionate about pursuing, not only today, but in months and, even in years to come. And so understanding that it's going to be a very highly people skilled environment that we're working in, even in this virtual environment, just learning how to work with people, I think, is essential to your future and also to your success. Thank you.
You're welcome. And that's so funny. So you just actually touched on my next two questions, but one of them is definitely, from and anybody can take this one, but from your experience, what are the necessary characteristics one must have to be successful in completing the challenges faced by the EPA? And I say that because, our students are really good at developing themselves once they know these types of challenges and being able to prepare themselves for it. So I always like to create a rhythm while students are here at the university for employment for after graduation.
If I could leave anything with you, it's that failure isn't fatal. You're not always going to be successful. You're going to have, challenges, and sometimes things won't end up the way that you want them to be. But failure isn't fatal just means that, there's redirection, there's other opportunities. And as we've heard today with EPA, there are so many ways that you can contribute to health and to the environment. So, that would be my suggestion, is to take your career as an adventure. And, you can prepare for it today, but also be flexible and be nimble. As we just heard from our HR specialist, Liz, sometimes you have to really read those descriptions and just see what that job truly entails. It might be the perfect job for you, but if you only focus on what your career title is or your degree title is, you may miss out on some wonderful opportunities. So I saw some other hands up. Let me not monopolize the conversation. Walter, I'll turn it over to you.
One challenge I will say that didn't exist when I started with the agency in 1989 and is very prevalent nowadays is folks aren't into science. And your role in turning very complicated jargon and data into simple so people can understand, because the more they understand the work that the agency does, the more receptive they are to the work that you'll be doing. So when you come in, you got to come in and be diversified, understanding that you may have been a cum laude scholar in biology, but the folks you will interact with, particularly out in the community, may not be. So there's challenges that the agency faces now as I keep up with things. Folks aren't into science. Some people out there don't believe in science. And so the challenges that'll be coming in for folks joining the agency at this point is to be well-rounded enough to get off of your BS and your masters and come down to the weeds and be able to make the community and other folks affected by your work understand why you're doing it and what will be the benefits of it.
Yeah, let me just jump in here too, because both Dr. Boyd and Walter mentioned a general concept that you hear about being open-minded, and I would encourage students to always be willing to listen carefully to what others are saying. In this field of environmental management, there is no one cure to solve a problem. And it really means bringing in different ways of thinking about a problem and how to resolve a problem. And you'll find that in the environmental field, working with various communities, the way to resolve a problem is not always the straight path. And what I found, and one of the things that I do is when I teach my students, I'm an adjunct professor at Villanova University. I try to help the students understand that working with the communities and understanding what their needs are, and then taking those needs and how can you craft the program that you are responsible for implementing to meet those needs. And when you cannot do that, who are the different partners that are out there that can help you to meet that community's needs. And Dr. Boyd's program in the Chesapeake Bay, they do a lot of that work, working with communities, trying to define the different ways. So as one of my mentors said, there's always more than one way to skin the cat, and keep that open mind on how you might be able to solve that problem to move the needle forward.
Okay. Any other hands up?
I can just touch on it for a second. I just think moving forward with where we are in the world and the environmental issues that we are facing, the effects of climate change and all of the disasters that are happening on a more frequent and stronger basis are some of the challenges that we as environmentalists and environmental stewards are going to have to be responsible for facing and coming up with these new ideas and these new ways to solve these problems. I think one of the biggest challenges that I learned, especially joining the federal government, is that because we are the federal government, a lot of times we have to follow a certain way of doing things, and that in trying to find solutions within that framework is an exercise and it's a challenge. So we need new minds and new ways of thinking of how to get some of these to solve some of these issues that we're facing, especially in terms of like the hurricanes that we're experiencing year after year and the flooding. Like, what are some new ways that we can develop or build these communities to withstand these new storms that we're having, because they're not going anywhere anytime soon. So just trying to think of those as not necessarily challenges in a bad sense, but more so of a call to action from us and from our future generations, which is our college students, and how we're going to address those and hopefully try to figure out how to encourage more people to get into those sciences like Walt was talking about, because it's something that affects us every day on a day-to-day basis, and making sure that people understand that I think is something important that our students should take with them moving forward as they think about joining EPA.
Okay. My next question, I know that many of you guys on the call either have been hiring managers or you're currently hiring managers. And also this question is posed to our HR specialist as well. Dr. Boyd mentioned, some different skill sets that are necessary. Again, that's really about, in my area, as far as student development, while students are here at Delaware State University. So from your experience, what are some hard and soft skills and technical skills to be successful to getting that internship or employment opportunity, or even to be considered for employment at EPA?
I think I'll kick this one off. Just thinking about, from our perspective and what we're looking at when we're looking at your application, please keep in mind, we do not run these through a software system. We are, as a human, looking at every piece of document that you submit, and we're reading your resume thoroughly, looking at your transcripts. One thing I will say is don't forget about any type of like unpaid experience, volunteer experience, things you're doing in your community. Experience does not have to be paid. We look at it, as a whole. We want those well-rounded, individuals to join EPA. So maybe you have 6 months of paid experience doing this type of project, but then you have 6 months working in your community, or working on an environmental, project or that kind of thing. Make sure all of that's on your resume, because we really want to get the full breadth of who you are as a person and what you've done, whether or not that's volunteer, unpaid. The next thing I would say too, for anybody who's looking, for like those personal development, ways to grow, that kind of thing. One thing I would recommend is take a look at one of the job announcements, because when you go through them, it'll talk about the KSAs. So the knowledge, skills, and ability that are required to do that position. And you'll see a lot of common themes with them, such as, being skilled in written communication, being skilled in oral communication. But you'll also see some more, such as like, collaborating with internal and external stakeholders. So just as what some of the others were mentioning, being able to talk to those community members on a level where it translates to them and everybody is kind of, understanding, but also being able to talk technical to people who are, within EPA or other agencies or government organizations. So I really encourage you to take a look at those KSAs just to kind of see what we're looking for, in those positions. That way you can kind of understand, where can I really kind of jump into my personal development, and where are some ways that I can can get that training, and I can put that under my belt, so I know that, you know, I'm fully prepared to do that job.
And I'd like to add to that too, like what Liz was saying, like if you see a position that comes out and you're like, I'm interested in that, almost go all the way through the application process as if you would, because you have to get to an agency questionnaire and use those specific things that they ask you. Do you have experience in this? Say, no, I don't have experience, but look for it. Now it's like, I need these experiences, and go out and look for ways to get those experiences. And then when you go to translate that into your resume, because you have to put it in your resume, like she said, they're reading it. Try to imagine they're reading 1,000 resumes. You need to be very clear in your resume and say, I did this specifically. I did did analysis of data collected in the field, something like that. So it's very clear that you meet this qualification and you have this knowledge, skill, and ability that they're looking for. Don't be broad and beat around the bush, or the team did this. I did this, and this was the result. You know, so that way they know there's no question that you have the experience and that you meet the qualification for this. Because I think that's where people get tripped up, is they're not very specific in their resume, and there's a science, it's an art, and even just applying that's a skill. Applying for these jobs is a skill, and you may not get it the first time you do it, but the next time you apply, your resume can be a little more fine-tuned. And I just want to encourage you to reach out to people at EPA who work for EPA to help you with your resume. If you come across somebody at a career fair, get their information down and ask them, you know, I want to apply for this position. Can you help me? You know, they might not be the one to help you, but they might refer you to somebody else, such as me. I used to be the Black Employment Program Manager, and one of our main missions is to bring students in and to help our students from HBCU. So someone may say, hey, Brittany, this student reached out to me from Delaware State. They want to apply for this position. You know, don't wait until the position comes up. You know, try to get this stuff, you know, going, because like Liz said, they're only up for 5 days, and we're working full-time jobs. I might not be able to help you in that instance, but if you catch me early, you know, I can help you kind of build your resume to the point where when you do go to apply, we know that you have these fine points in there, and, you know, it can just increase your chances. And we'll also help you when it comes to interview skills too, but that's a whole nother thing. A panel interview is a whole thing you have to practice for. I would encourage you to practice for it. And we're here for you to do that too.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's such a good point, Brittany. Using facts and figures in your resume, we can never assume anything. So making sure you're putting those dates on there, those hours worked, like, please be, you know, specific. The resume doesn't have to be 1 page. It doesn't have to be 20 pages, just making sure that it really, you know, shows who you are and the experience that you have.
I wanted to piggyback on what Liz said and what Brittany said. So 3 things: the resume, the interview, and then also the HR specialist. So for example, after your resume goes into USA Jobs, it goes to someone like a specialist like Liz, then it comes to me. And I've hired 7 people in the past 4 months. And so sometimes we get as many as 50, 60 applicants for one job. So one of the very first ways that we screen applications is typos. If you can't write clearly and legibly, and you have typos and errors in your resume, that's one of the first things we use to remove you from the pool of applicants, at least in my office, because we have to get from 50 down to a manageable number for interviews. So first of all, please, please, please have someone else look at your resume before you actually submit it. Secondly, you want your resume to be tailored to the job that you're applying for. And I can't tell you how many times I see a standard template resume. And when I say standard template, I mean, you can tell that the person put no effort into actually just taking some of the words that are in the job announcement and then merging them into your actual resume. So for example, you know, I currently have a resume that's 20 pages. Am I going to send that for a job that I want to apply for? Absolutely not. But what I would do is go into that 20-page resume and find the specific things that I've done over the past years that pertain to that job. And you can literally cut and paste, and then that way you're tailoring your resume to suit the needs of that particular job. I personally am an advocate of less is more, because the average person who's screening these, at least in my office, spends a couple of minutes, if that, on your resume. So if you have 10 pages and the good stuff's on page 9, chances are we're not even going to see it. And that can actually eliminate you from a job that you're probably really highly skilled for. So that's the first one with the resume. Second one is the interview. And I think Brittany said this, practice, practice, practice. I mean, I know this might come across as a shock, but I'm an extreme introvert. I'm not the type of person who likes to talk and interact with people, but over time, I've learned to, especially in the virtual environment, learn how to communicate so that people can understand what I'm saying. So eye contact, especially in the virtual world, learning how to explain yourself, talk about your aspirations, things like that. You can practice now and have that down pat. Many times people say, what's your top 5? What are the top 5 things you want to tell the interview team so that you're memorable and then you get to the next step? And then as Brittany said, there's all different types of interviews, panel interviews, individual interviews. And in some cases in my office, you will go through a series of interviews with different people, with me probably being the last person that you speak to as I make the final decision. So just keep that in mind, that interviewing is a skill, it's a process, and learning how to present yourself well, either if it's in person or it's virtually, is very, very important. And then last but not least, on these job applications, there should be, Liz, correct me if I'm wrong, the contact information for some type of HR specialist or contact person. Okay, so use that. Email them, call them, ask them questions, try and get as much information as you can about that position before you apply for it. Because again, you want your resume to stick out. You want your interview to show that you've actually researched about the position. I can't tell you how many times I've interviewed someone and something very basic is something that you can tell they don't know. Those are the type of things that can actually eliminate you from getting a position. So I'll turn it back over to you, but those 3 things, your resume, your interview, and making sure that you connect with the HR specialist is very helpful in your career journey. Thanks.
You're welcome. And also I want to add, because that's one thing I also teach, is making sure that your cover letter also is tailored towards what the job description actually entails and what that employer essentially needs from the successful candidate. So my last question is, upon service completion, and or if you are currently still serving, if any, are there tips, strategies, or techniques you wish you had known, when you actually started, that you would like to share?
I think I'm going to go back to what I said before. Failure isn't fatal. And that is, you're not going to get every job you apply for. And I know that sounds really terrible to say because we're trying to encourage you to apply for a job, but that doesn't mean it's the end. I know that there's been people in my office who applied for a job over a period of time, and maybe the first or the second time they didn't get the job, but they did something crucial. They asked for feedback. So in other words, what can I do to improve my application? What can I do to improve my interview skills? And I have someone who applied twice for 2 positions, didn't get it. Third one, person really did their homework, and it showed how passionate they were about the position, and they actually ended up getting the position. It took them a while, but the point is that you want to make sure that if this is your true, aspiration, it will happen. It may not happen the way that you want it or in the time frame that you want it, but keep trying. And also, I think what's more important than anything else is building your network. Especially now that you're in college, look to your left, look to your right in the virtual space and in the classroom. Those are relationships that can carry on with you for years and years and years. And so just understanding your network, how that can benefit you is really important. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn because to me, that's the modern day, networking tool for so many people. So having yourself in the virtual space as well as the physical space, I think are skills that I didn't have 20, 30 years ago, but they're at your fingertips right now. And it's a way for you to learn about jobs, access people, and then hopefully just strengthen your career path. Thank you.
Well, I would only add, from my own experience, it was paradigm shift. Never say the word never. John will attest to that, as never say, I don't want to be a supervisor. Never say, I don't want to be a senior manager. Unlike Dr. Boyd, never say, I want to be SES or executive. I think what changed over the 30 years I spent at EPA is you can come in and say that I just want to do my job and move on, but the atmosphere won't allow you to do that if you have the skills and talent, because others around you will see it and they'll constantly nudge it. So my career experience was a constant paradigm shift to something that I said I wasn't interested in, something I didn't want to be bothered with, even though I would still do it. So that's the first thing you would prepare your young career for, is getting out your box, so to speak. Like Dr. Boyd said, she was an introvert. Well, I was an extrovert. And as I became a senior leader, I realized that I'd have to turn that extrovert button down for some people. And I would tell folks like Dr. Boyd who are introverts is that you better put on your acting face for the time you're here, because the atmosphere doesn't allow for either one to flourish. That's all I have.
Yeah, let me just jump in there as well. And like Dr. Boyd, I too am an introvert, but I learned to be an extrovert. But I did do so in moderation by way of knowing when to take informed risk. And I say that in terms of jobs that you're looking for. While it's important, yes, to get a job, coming out of college, you want to get out from underneath mom and dad, but it's important to take informed risks. Don't go after every job. And that's a tip that I would give, all of you. Every job is not, the way to really create your career. Find a job or area that you're passionate in and seek out opportunities within that area. And you'll be surprised at what will come your way when you take those risks, even if it's outside your comfort zone. In fact, I would encourage you to look at those jobs opportunities which are outside your comfort zone. I think Walton, hinted at that. Get outside your box, and you will find that you have the skill set to really do that job and do that job well. Brittany is an example.
Yeah.
I'm so
worked for
proud of
me.
Brittany. I'm
Yeah.
sitting there
I
smiling the
hired
whole
Brittany
time.
into
I
my
met that young
Brownfield
lady.
program, and she
Yeah, I
was
mean,
outside of
I
her
can't
comfort
help
zone.
for everybody on this call. I am so proud of her. I met
Yep,
her when she first came. She wasn't getting paid.
yep,
She met the right people. I was one of them. John was the other. I ain't scared to brag.
yep.
But at the same time, even as she got defeated on opportunities, I thought this young lady would leave. She didn't leave. She hung in there. And so I can't help but smile as I sit and listen to Miss Brittany Clark, aka Britt, who I saw every day, who encouraged, and it makes me so proud to know that her legacy is not over with, because she's now reaching back to her alma mater and also trying to pull more of you behind. So I just sit here like a proud, what do I call myself? Proud papa, proud uncle. I don't know.
Well,
I'm just proud because I saw this young lady when she first came to the agency. And now that she described, I didn't even know half of the things she was now doing. And everything she said was word truth. Everything was truth based on her own effort. And so I'm very proud of you, Brittany Clark.
thank
And so
you.
it's
Yeah,
awesome.
that was something I wanted to leave with everybody too, is to build your team. When even before you get into an agency, get into a job, start building a team of people around you who are going to push you, who are going to pull you up, who are going to encourage you to try these different experiences. For me, when I came in, as a college student with no experience, somebody would suggest something. I say, I don't think I can do that. I don't know if I have the skills for that. And they say, yes, you can do it. This is, you've done certain things in this area. It's very similar. Just do it. And then I did it, and I did great. Or I've done some things I didn't do so great, but I had a team around me that helped me to see my potential when I couldn't see it. And I think that's one of the best things that I did starting out, that I did, something that I wish I would have known, because I would have started it sooner, was to just start meeting with people when I got into the agency and seeing who does things in the areas that are of interest to me and things that I'm passionate about, that I know will help, see me through and pull me up and push me even after they retire, and they can come back and say they're proud of me. It just gives me even more of a drive to keep doing what I'm doing, because I know that I'm standing on their shoulders and continuing, our efforts and our mission. So I thank you again for letting me speak today. I
No
appreciate
worries, no
it.
worries at all. So before we close out real quick, there was one other question that came in from a student, and she asked, are there internship opportunities for first-year undergraduate students?
That's a good question. First year undergraduate. Yeah, so it kind of just depends. Typically with the student trainee positions and the internships, you'll see them posted as grade 3, 4, or 5. And depending on the different grade, there's going to be different requirements as far as, you know, whether it's school experience or that kind of thing. So keep in mind, new announcements get posted every day, guys. We are in like such a hiring craze right now. It is crazy. So keep an eye out. I really implore you to look at like the GS3 and that kind of thing, because some of the requirements may not be that, you know, 2 full years of post high school education, and you might be able to see something that'll still you'll be eligible for with, you know, maybe just that first year, that kind of thing. And we also have like volunteer opportunities as well. So maybe it's, you know, not a paid internship that requires you to have a little bit more schooling under your belt, but maybe it's like a volunteer opportunity. I would definitely encourage you to check out our epa.gov/careers page as well and see what other outside opportunities exist, just kind of while you're still, you know, navigating undergrad and everything like that.
And I'd like to add something to Liz as an individual who brought a number of pathway students in on a grade, no matter what grade 3, 4, or 5. Keep in mind, you're not going to be Xeroxing. You're not going to be organizing bookshelves. You're in a professional atmosphere when you're brought on board. You're working with engineers, scientists, all of those folks who are professionals. The work you're doing may not be at their level, but you'll be involved. So don't think that once you do an entry level opportunity like that, even if you're a first year undergrad, you'll come in based on the skills and talents that you have and be a part of the team. But you're not just limited because you're in a very professional atmosphere once you come on board.
Okay. Students, do you guys have any further questions for our panelists? None? All right. Well, I would like to thank you guys so much wholeheartedly for taking out the time to definitely engage with the students at Delaware State University, more specific in the College of Agriculture, Science, and Technology. And I know that they've taken a lot from this. I'm going to dismiss them. You guys are more than dismissed so that you can continue with your day. And I appreciate it.